What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Tailgate. I'm your host, Michael Quattromani, and I am very happy to have you here. If you enjoy listening to what I say, then make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you never miss an upload. And also make sure to check out the podcast on Spotify if you get the chance. And make sure to also subscribe to my other podcast, the 411. I will leave a link to it down below to our most latest video. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, DM me questions or text me any questions or topics you want me to cover in upcoming podcasts, and leave a like because it makes me happy. So, yeah, just do all that, and we'll be good. So today I should get right into it. I'm basically just going to give you like the top 15 fantasy players and just my takes, my opinions on them, whether I like them or not, if I think you should draft them or not, where I think you should draft them. Are they worth the pick? Are they going to have a really good season, an okay season, or just a bad season all around? And that's pretty much what I'm going to do. If you don't, if you're looking at, you're bored and you're like, I don't know if I want to pick Zeke or Kamara or Cook or Henry. Like, if you just don't know who to pick, then stay tuned because I'm going to give you my takes on who I would take in the upcoming draft. Mine is actually tomorrow, so very excited for that. I will get to the Celtics. I did watch the game today. I know they blew out the Raptors. I'm going to talk about that in the next podcast. I just really want to get this one done so that it could be out there and you guys can watch it while it's still fresh. So, just to get right into it, I'm using ESPN's rankings of their top 200 fantasy players. So, I'm just going to use their rankings for top 1 through 15. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the 1 through 15 players and basically just my takes on them. So, obviously, number 1, Christian McCaffrey, the unanimous pick for fantasy this year. He's the number one guy. I mean, I don't think there's too much argument against that. He is the most versatile back. Breakout season in 2019, obviously. Just set records all around. Phenomenal running back. He's one of the only running backs, in my opinion, in the NFL that the team can use whether they're up or down. I mean, guys like Ezekiel Elliott, if the Cowboys are losing, they're not going to rely on him to catch the ball, so he's not going to be, in the offense that much. Christian McCaffrey is relied upon if they're down by a lot, if they're up by a lot, if they're in a really close game, whatever the situation is, McCaffrey's going to be fed the ball. And no other player can really say that except for Saquon Barkley when he's fully healthy and, really on, and that's a big question mark. So, Christian McCaffrey, my number one pick. If you have the number one pick of the draft, McCaffrey, just pick him if he's there. And you can, he's a fantastic pick. You wouldn't have to worry about him. He'll put up 20 a game and, it's not too much of a worry. So at number 2, we have Saquon Barkley. I'm not a big Saquon fan. I thought that he had a phenomenal rookie season. I thought he played absolutely great, lived up to all the hype. And then he was kind of, not unanimous, but he was the first pick of last year's draft. And even then, I was a little bit iffy on, whether he was going to be worth it. And I know he was injured for... it was really only 3 weeks, but it affected him for probably 6 or 7 weeks past that. But even then, I didn't think he was going to have that great of a year, and he ended up not. But he's still being picked at number 2, which to me, I just think, the number, really, picks 1 through 5, you should have no uncertainty about them. You should have no worries. They should just be, really great players. And I think that Barkley just has too many question marks for me. I mean, is the injury still going to be lingering? I mean... You look at training camp, and it's kind of like Saquon Barkley sits out. And Saquon Barkley, limited in practice. And whether it's precautionary or not, it's still, it's still happening. He's still not 100%, which scares me a little bit. So, for being number 2 in the draft, I wouldn't pick Barkley at 2. It may be bold. Look, if you really like Barkley, go ahead and take him and, shut me up when he puts up 40 week 1. But personally, He isn't doing it for me because last season, I'm actually going to get his stats for last year right now. He started the season, he put up 18 and then 22, this is all in PPR, which is good, and then 7 where he got injured. And then after that, 17, 28, 15, very solid weeks. And then he goes 8, 8, 14, 9. And it's only 4 games, but it scares me because it shows that, like, against tough defenses like the Jets, because I'm not saying they have an all-around tough defense, but with Jamal Adams in that secondary, in that front seven, which is really good, that's tough defense. Chicago's front seven, tough. Green Bay's front seven, tough. Philadelphia has some really good run defenders and a few good pass rushers, too. That's a tough defense to go against. He couldn't get it done. He averaged, like, 9 points per game against those guys. But then he goes against Miami, puts up 30. Washington puts up 44. Philadelphia puts up 21. That just scares me a little bit, because if you can only beat up on the bad teams, well, then you're not worth the second pick of the draft. You should be able to beat up on all the teams. So I don't think that Barkley is the number 2 pick. I think Elliott is the number 2 pick in my opinion. And speaking of Elliott, he is right now at number 3. I would bump him up to 2. He's so consistent. He doesn't get enough praise for that. He's such a consistent running back. He is probably, I'm not even. He might be better than McCaffrey when it comes to running the ball. I mean, he just, like, I think that he has a better chance of 100 yards per game than McCaffrey does, in my opinion. He is just so good. He's like a microwave. When you feed him the ball consistently, he's going to get better. He gets better as the game goes on. And in fantasy, you love that. And I think the Cowboys are going to be better this season compared to last season, so I think he's going to get more opportunities. If the Cowboys are up, they're going to be giving Zeke the ball. I don't see Tony Pollard as being a real threat to his starting job, or even just any form of workload to get in the way of Elliott. I think he's still going to have like 80 to 85% of the snaps, which is nuts. He might get more involved in the pass game. I don't see why not. I think now in his 4th season, he's worked his way up, getting more targets per year, so hopefully that trend continues this season. I like Ezekiel Elliott. They also have a very really easy schedule this year. So, it's all these things that are pointing in the right direction for Elliott. For me, I think he's the safest pick at number 2 behind McCaffrey. At 4, we have Alvin Kamara. I think he's a good 4th pick. If you were to pick him a little bit later, I wouldn't be mad about that. He, obviously, last year he underperformed because people thought that, he did tear his MCL from weeks 9 to 17, which to me is just, berserk of how he even played through that. Whether, it was good or not, he still played. Kamara does scare me a little bit. He's a little bit more inconsistent than I wish he was. I think that he does fit really well in the New Orleans offense. I think Latavius Murray does have, a chance to take away some of his snaps. Especially because the Saints like to work in rotations. I mean, we know at quarterback, Drew Brees, Taysom Hill, they like working in committee with running backs. I like Kamara, though. I think Kamara's a solid pick at 5. At 4, he's okay. If Elliott's there, I take him. If Barkley's there, I would take him at 4. But I think Kamara's okay at 4, too. At 5, we have Dalvin Cook. I'm very low on Dalvin Cook. I don't think he's going to be very good this year. He showed that he burned out at the end of last season. He only averaged about 11 to 12 points per game for the last 6 weeks of the season. He just didn't perform well. And that's a third of the season wasted, and that's part of the playoffs. And when you're arguably your best to second best player isn't performing well, and it's only putting up 12 to 13 points per game, that's not good. That's really not good. And that's a big, big sign of him, not having what it takes to be a running back 1. And that's what sets him apart from guys like Elliott and McCaffrey and Barkley. He just doesn't have that. I don't think he's going to be good in this offense this year. I just think that Kirk Cousins throws the ball around a lot. He balances out the offense. He does through 40% of his passes to his top 2 receivers, which were Thielen and Diggs. Now it's going to be Thielen and Justin Jefferson, rookie out of LSU. I don't like Dalvin Cook. I think that he's the injuries are still a problem. He has some inconsistent worries. I don't think he's worthy of that number 5 pick. If you could convince me of an early 2nd round pick, very late 1st round pick if you're in like a 12-person league. But I don't like Cook at number 5. Number 6, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So if you don't know his name, he was the Chiefs' 1st round pick this year at number 32. Phenomenal running back out of LSU. He's talked about being, put in the absolute perfect situation in Kansas City. I agree with that. I think that Kansas City is the perfect landing spot for him. He's put in a powerful offense, explosive offense, and we saw what he could do in explosive offense last year at LSU. He's a really good running back. Doesn't have the speed that people would want, but he has that breakout ability. and he can catch the ball, which is something that Andy Reid absolutely loves. If you know Andy Reid, he loves to go to his running backs in fantasy, and I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is just going to be another product of the Andy Reid system, and I think he's going to be kind of Jamal Charles, Kareem Hunt, even Damian Williams to a degree. I mean, Williams had a few really good games last year, especially in the playoffs. I think he could replicate that. Even Brian Westbrook, years back when he had a few running back 2 finishes, really good running back. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be good this year. I think 6 is a little early for me. I would say early second round pick. But if he is there at 6 and you really like him, then, I mean, I personally don't think it's the right choice. I would love to pick a guy like Henry, Derrick Henry or Michael Thomas or even Joe Mixon over him. But, it's each their own. I personally, though, I'd pick him at the beginning of the second round. Speaking of Derrick Henry, though, at number 7, we have Henry, running back for Tennessee. We all know this. Great running back, destroyed and just tore up the playoffs last season. Had like 3 consecutive 200-yard performances. Unreal running back. Used momentum from the regular season. I think he's going to carry his momentum from the playoffs back into the regular season. Another really consistent running back. Reminds me a lot of Ezekiel Elliott. A guy who was powerful in the run game, not as much in the passing game, but his targets have gone up over the years, and I think they're going to go up in that direction again this season. Henry, he's the number 1 guy. I know a lot about unnecessary facts in football, but I don't even know who Tennessee's backup is. So I think that just speaks to Derrick Henry just having that job, and it's not even close to anyone else taking it. So I think that Derrick Henry is the number 1 pick. Obviously, we saw Tannehill, wasn't the best passing quarterback in the world. He was a good game manager, but I think he's going to rely on Derrick Henry this year. Tennessee wide receivers isn't anything to write home about, so he's the focal point of the offense, and they're going to have to rely on him. I love him at 7. I would pick him as early as 4. I would not let him slip past 7, though. If you have the opportunity to pick Derrick Henry, I would take him, no doubt about it. Number 8, we have Michael Thomas. We all know Michael Thomas. Fantastic wide receiver for the Saints. Best wide receiver in the NFL when it comes to fantasy. I think that if I were you, I don't know if I would pick Thomas at 8. I mean, I did say in a few podcasts ago that I'd pick him anywhere from 6 to 8, so I'm going to stick to it, though. I like Thomas. I'm just thinking if any of the guys above are available, except for Dalvin Cook, I would take him. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 8, I wouldn't be too opposed to that. It's a little early for me, but even then, you could convince me about it. Dalvin Cook, though, I still don't think that is late enough. I think you need to get back into the second round for me to pick Dalvin Cook comfortably. Joe Mixon, number 9. I think that Joe Mixon's a great running back for Cincinnati. I think that 9 is right around where I choose him. I wouldn't choose him any earlier than 9. He just doesn't really... He's not too explosive, and that's something that kind of scares me in fantasy because you do want to have players in the first round that have the ability to put up like 30, 35 point, even 40-point performances, which all of the above guys have that ability to do, with the exception of Dalvin Cook. I'm really ripping on Cook today, but I don't know. He's just not my guy. But Joe Mixon, he's good. I like him at 9. I would pick him a little later if you can. He's a good early second round pick. I just don't know about the first round for Joe Mixon. He doesn't have too much of a competition. I do think that since the offense is going to be a little bit more congested with A.J. Green coming back and with T. Higgins being there, and then they draft Joe Burrow, and Tyler Boyd is also there too. It just seems a little too congested to me. I'm not sure if that's going to help or hurt Mixon. We've seen in the past that, adding offensive pieces helps, like Ezekiel Elliott, adding Amari Cooper helped him out. But I'm not sure if this is going to help or hurt Joe Mixon. We'll have to see. I personally, though, I'm going to stick with my early second round pick for Mixon. 10, we have Josh Jacobs. Again, kind of like Dalvin Cook, I'm very low on Josh Jacobs this year. And it's not because of his skill, per se. It's more about how the Raiders have handled his situation of being in a Raiders uniform. Because, if you were all in on your guy, then you wouldn't go out and draft... they actually did draft a third-round pick, running back. You wouldn't go out and sign Jalen Richard, or re-sign Jalen Richard, who is their receiving back, third down back. And you wouldn't go out and re-sign DeAndre Washington. So you brought in 3 running backs this year. It just tells me that you're not completely sold on Josh Jacobs, and because of that reason, I am out on Josh Jacobs. I don't think that he is worth a number one. First round pick. Sorry, I don't even think he's worth a second round pick. I'd wait until the third round to get Josh Jacobs, because you want a guy that's going to be, your bell cow, and he's not. He's maybe going to get 60% of the snaps. So, and if you have a guy that's just going to over 50%, that scares me a lot. So I'm going to steer away from Josh Jacobs. At number 11, we have Austin Eckler, and if you know anything about me, you know I am very high on Eckler this season. Again, really great running back. He's one of those players that, he's fantastic in the run game, fantastic in the receiving game for running backs. I think that he's the second best receiving back, or third best receiving back behind Kamara. I think that he does take it over Barkley. I think Barkley obviously has him when running the ball, but I just think Eckler is a more explosive receiver than Barkley is. Barkley might be more consistent, but I like more. I like Eckler more in that element. So I think Eckler is a great running back at number 11. I would not mind. I think that number 11 is right where you should take him. I think he's a second round pick. So if you can get Eckler really anywhere in the second round, I think it's a really good place to draft him. First pick of the second round, last pick, wherever it is, Eckler is good for the second round. Because I think that, the thing that sets him apart from, a guy like Christian McCaffrey or even Saquon Barkley, if he has a good season, is that, those guys are kind of, they're not it for their offense, but they are the focal point, whereas Eckler's not the focal point. I mean, they still have guys like Hunter Henry, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be there. Is it going to be Justin Herbert? We've seen what Tyrod Taylor is like, but, how is he going to be back into a starting position? I mean, we don't know yet. So that sort of uncertainty does, I'm not sure what the word is. It hurts me a little bit with my thoughts about Eckler, but all in all, I think it's a really solid second-round pick, a very safe pick, even with the things I just mentioned. But that's the thing about Barkley and McCaffrey. Is like they're the focal points. Obviously, the Panthers have DJ Moore. They brought in Robbie Anderson, but Christian McCaffrey's not getting his spot taken away. And in the Giants, I mean, it's him, it's Barkley, and then it's Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard. It's a pretty steep drop off after those two talent levels. So I think that McCaffrey, obviously number one pick. I think Barkley should fall anywhere in the mid to late first round, and I really like Eckler in the second round. Okay, so after Austin Eckler, we have Aaron Jones, running back out of Green Bay. I'm so low on Aaron Jones this year, and it's pretty much just because there's no way that he can replicate his 2019 season. He was so on and off, so hot and cold. He put up 19 touchdowns last year. I'd be surprised if he gets half of that. I'd be surprised if he gets 9 this year, even 10. That's just... It's crazy to me, and I think that it just speaks to him, not being too much of a receiving back. So, Jamal Williams is already taking those opportunities away from him, and they brought in A.J. Dillon, third-round pick out of Boston College. Really big fan of A.J. Dillon, and if he can just get rid of his injury issues, I think that he can be a great running back. And actually, some experts are predicting that he might actually take the number one spot away from Aaron Jones by week 17. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's a little bit out there, but, that type of prediction doesn't warrant, a positive view about Aaron Jones. It doesn't make me feel good about Aaron Jones. So I think that second round is a little early for me. I would not pick Jones. Personally, I wouldn't pick him at all, but if you like Aaron Jones, I wouldn't take him until the third round. There's a lot of uncertainty around him. I mean, what's his offense going to look like? How is Aaron Rodgers going to come out of the gate? Is he going to be, a little fire under his ass because of the draft of Jordan Love? Or is he just going to sit back and relax like last season? Even though he went 13-3, he didn't have a good season. And is he just going to sling it to, his wide receivers? Who knows? How is Matt LaFleur going to use his running backs this year? Is it going to be like by committee? Is it going to be... we'll just week to week see who's the hot hand and we'll give it to them, because I don't like either of those situations, especially when it comes to, your potential number one running back on your team. So I'm going to steer away from Aaron Jones this year. So for the last 3 picks, we have Nick Chubb, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to take Nick Chubb at 13 for Cleveland. If you watched my podcast probably about a week ago by now, it's not that I'm low on Nick Chubb. It's more about that I'm extremely high on Kareem Hunt, and I think that He's a really, really great running back, and I think he's going to kind of steal the show this year and be a running back too. If you look at the end of the season last year, if you go by snap percentages, Kareem Hunt was taking 67 to 70% of the snaps last year, leaving Nick Chubb with 30%. That's not good. And it really scares me that Nick Chubb is potentially going to be a very early second round pick or a late first round pick when his starting job isn't even secure. Kind of like Aaron Jones in a way. Chubb obviously was second in rushing yards last year to Derrick Henry. Really great running back. I think that, he is one of the most powerful rushers in the NFL. He might be the most powerful rusher in the NFL. Maybe him to Saquon. But I think Kareem Hunt is too big of an obstacle to overcome for Nick Chubb to be a running back 1 this year. I think that he's going to be an extremely high-end running back 2, with Kareem Hunt being a low-end running back 2. But I don't know. Chubb's numbers fell from 19 points per game to 12 points per game when Kareem Hunt came into the picture, and that stat really scares me. I don't like Nick Chubb, and it's the same reason why I'm laying off of Dalvin Cook when his numbers dipped down to 12 points per game when the season went on. So I'm going to kind of use the same argument with Nick Chubb, except, Dalvin Cook burned out, and Nick Chubb just has a different guy in the backfield. We'll see what Kevin Stefanski does. We know that he loves to use running back by committees, which actually doesn't really help Hunt or Chubb this year. But we'll have to see what happens. I wouldn't pick Chubb until the 3rd round, very late 2nd round. But we'll see what happens in Cleveland. So at 14 we have Devontae Adams, Green Bay, wide receiver. Adams did kind of like Kamara last year. He really underperformed. People thought he was going to be the number 1 wide receiver, if not number 2. I think he's going to bounce back. I think that, he has to, because he has nowhere to go but up. He's not going to do worse than last year. He didn't even reach 1,000 yards. He had 997. I think that he's going to go up this year. I think the offense is kind of wide open for Adams. They did sign Devin Funchess in free agency, but I think that actually might only help Adams because it might just open up the offense. If you look at the tape last year, kind of like Aaron Donald being double-teamed on any play, Devontae Adams was double-teamed all the time, and he could not get open, and that's why his stats were hurt so much. And I think that, having Devin Funchess as a wide receiver 2, and then you get Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling as your 3 and 4. It's going to open up the offense a little bit, and then you got that running back committee in the backfield. I think this offense might be explosive this year, might open up things for Devontae Adams, and he's going to be a very valuable receiver this year. I like him in the 2nd round, right where he's being picked at 14. Maybe a little bit later than 14. I think 14 is the earliest you should take him. But personally, I'm going to take a guy like Tyreek Hill over him, who is the number 15 guy, obviously wide receiver for Kansas City. And the only reason, it's not even about consistency or weapons or quarterback or situation, whatever it is, he just has more breakout ability, and he has more boom ability. Tyreek Hill is just, he could be going from, it's in the 4th quarter with 6 minutes to go, and he has like 2 catches for 30 yards, and then boom, 70-yard touchdown. He gets a 16-point bonus, and, he puts up 20 for the day. That's the thing about Tyreek Hill. He just has that ability to kind of explode at any moment, and not even just that, he has the ability to explode any week and put up like 45 just like randomly. The thing is, I misspoke. It's not even random. I wouldn't even be surprised if that happened, because he's still the number 1 wide receiver there. I know it's a loaded offense, and I don't think the addition of Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to necessarily help him too much. But Tyreek Hill he's Tyreek Hill. He's a beast, and he's a wide receiver 1. So if you're in the 2nd round and you really want to bolster your wide receiver position, and you pick a running back in the 1st round, then sure, I think Tyreek Hill's a great pick at 15. Even a little bit later than that, I wouldn't pick him too much earlier than 15, maybe 14 above Adams if you're between those 2 guys, but I wouldn't do too much after that. So that's going to actually wrap it up for today. That is picks 1 through 15. I'm just going to rattle them off again just to let you know where I stand. So 1, Christian McCaffrey. I'm just going to say if it's safe or risk. That's kind of what I'm going to say based on where they're being drafted. So McCaffrey, it's safe. Barkley, risk. Elliott, safe. Kamara, safe. Cook, big risk. Hilaire, I think it's a risk at 6, but I don't think it's a risk in general. Derrick Henry, extremely safe. Michael Thomas, safe. Joe Mixon, I'm very in the middle. I'm gonna say risk though, just because I think the offense is gonna be very different this year compared to last season, and we don't know if Joe Mixon can be that #1 running back that everybody is pushing for him to be. So I'm gonna say risk. Josh Jacobs, big risk. Austin Eckler, safe. Aaron Jones, big risk. Nick Chubb, I'm gonna say risk, even though, he has the ability to be a running back one. I'm gonna say risk. Devontae Adams, again, close, but I'm gonna say safe. Tyreek Hill, very safe, and that's gonna wrap it up for my list today. Um, yeah, so I think that is going to be it for this edition of the Tailgate. I hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this episode, and I hope to see you guys next time. Have a good one. I think I was born inside a cabana with diamonds and gold on top of the phantom.